We are live.
Okay.
We are live now. That was fast. I got a new internet connection today. The cable guy was out giving me all new stuff, so I'm excited.
That's great.
Let's see if we are on Liberty.me. Let's see. Connecting. All right. Let me see how we're doing. Is that an old Linky? I don't think so. Hey, out there in Liberty.me land, can anyone hear me?
It looks like someone's it looks like someone signed in.
Yay!
Liberty.me.
Charles Kennedy, my favorite. Of course, Charles is here because he's awesome. All right, so Angela Keaton is with me, and let me just make sure that Angela has the link to watch the chat room over in Liberty.me. Do you see the chat room in our little window, Angela?
Okay, hold on here. I'm sorry, let me switch it over.
Make sure that Angela.
I see the chat room. Okay.
Yep. I just sent you a link to go over to our page at Liberty.me so we can both follow the chat and interact with people and answer questions.
Okay. I'm going to have a bunch of screens up because I'm actually looking at some of the things you wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
I got up here in front of me.
Yeah, I'm going to post in the Liberty.me chat room some of the stories. And I found an updated version of the topic that I wanted to discuss. So I'm going to post that over here so everybody in Liberty.me land knows what is coming up. Guest voice. Let me just log in so it actually knows who I am. Voice. I love how it just comes up with random names.
Oh, I should log in then. I'm sorry. I did say hello to Charles, but it had a different name attached to it there.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Those random names. I love it.
All right. So I am in the guest room now with you.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. Because that's the best part. Okay. So welcome, everybody, to Politics After Dark. I am your host, Rachel. I am drinking red wine again.
Great.
Yes. The last two shows, I have been drinking club soda, and it's been a little bit sad. But tonight, I am done with my cleansing diet, whatever it was that I was on, and I am back to my old favorite Apothic Red. Cheers.
All right.
And what are you drinking, Ms. Keaton?
I have a bottle of water across the table, which I probably should get, but I just am settled and in my sad military space, ready to, he brought forth some challenging issues sent to me to say that we should talk about. They're fairly, they're downers in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a little bit, but I have to say I am not at all surprised by the story. I'm just glad it's finally out in the open, and I'm just kind of amused that so many people, specifically Fox News, is so shocked, I tell you, that the Department of Defense is paying for patriotic displays at NFL games. I mean, every time I see one of these flag humping displays, I just, it seems obvious. It seems obvious to me. I mean, that of course the military is encouraging this in some way. I'm not sure that I expected monetarily specifically, but I mean, of course the military is dying to latch on to the NFL and all that sports heroism in order to push their, propagandizing recruitment agenda. But anyway, yeah, we're going to discuss that in depth tonight. It kind of terrifies me, actually, that I'm on the same side as John McCain on an issue.
Well, yeah, it's terrifying. Did you say flag humping? Was that a term that you used? Flag humping?
Yes, flag humping. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, I want to make sure that I remember that. Okay, remind me that you said that, and use that often. I really, really enjoy that. That's good. Okay, flag humping.
Flag humping. I think
Okay.
Mike actually made up that term.
Oh, that's very good. Flag humping.
She's writing it
Okay.
down.
Okay, no. This has got to go down. Flag humping. No, flag humping. Okay. Flag humping. Oh, God. I wonder if Scott's ever said that on the radio. I don't know if you can say that on FCC radio. It's
Oh, they're going to start using your term on anti-war radio.
Flag humping.
Mike
There was
is
a lot of flag humping going
on. Fist pumping. Mike is now fist pumping over the flag humping.
If it's okay, is it okay if I read you a few paragraphs from Jason Ditz's story on the antiwar.com blog about this?
Yes, please. That's a great idea.
All right. Okay, this is from Jason Ditz, our news editor. You know when you go to a baseball game and invariably during some inning break, the team points at a group of soldiers or National Guard members in the stands and tries to get a big round of applause going. That doesn't just happen. A new report from Senators John McCain and Jeff Flake revealed that the Pentagon has spent over $10 million in recent years to keep those shows of patriotism active across the sporting events. Whether it's paying for special VIP parking for generals or for some team to show the military's logo on their Jumbotron, these programs are overwhelmingly pay-to-play sponsorship schemes. If 20 members of the military are getting the Richard Petty ride-along experience, it comes as part of a $1.5 million annual expenditure. Interestingly, congressional leaders seem to be of two minds about this heavily subsidized pretense of pro-military environment, insisting it's a waste of money, but largely expecting the teams to continue the programs irrespective of whether they pay for them. That's probably not going to be realistic, particularly in the long run. While it's certainly a waste of taxpayer money to have the National Guard buying a block of Red Sox tickets, Congress may be about to learn that in the absence of paid patriotism, there's going to be a lot less VIP treatment coming the military's way. And that's Jason Ditz, our news editor. And,
that's fantastic, but I disagree with Jason. I was thinking about this a lot today. What's the angle? See, the thing about John McCain and Jeff Flake is they don't want the patriotic displays to stop. They absolutely love them. It just warms the cockles of their little bloodthirsty hearts. And so they do not want this to stop. They, regardless of whether it works for propaganda, for recruitment, it works for propaganda. It pushes the idea that, hey, those in the military, those are the real heroes. Those guys on the football field, that's great and all. We know you admire them. But hey, look at them. They've all got their hands on their hearts saluting the real heroes, and that's the soldier. You did really well in high school. You were an awesome athlete. You were the star, but you didn't quite make the cut for the NFL. But hey, you can still be a real hero. Join up and be cannon fodder today. That they don't want that to stop. But
no, you're right. You're right. They don't want that to stop. They love that.
Here's what I think could possibly be happening behind the scenes next is they will somehow use the NFL's 501c3 status. A lot of people don't know that the NFL is a tax-exempt nonprofit 501c3. They do not pay taxes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my God, that's wonderful. I thank you for pointing that out.
And you know how they threaten churches. Every now and then, if the churches do something politically that somebody doesn't like, they preach from the pulpit, they threaten to yank the 501c3 status. That is a tool. That is a tool to get the NFL and these other sports teams to do this stuff for free. And I wouldn't put it past them, would you, to use that?
Oh, the militarism of our society. It's something that our sister group Come Home America talks a bit about. But wherever you go, the preferences of that the troops are preferred. And I go into 24-hour fitness, and there's this giant thing. And we're a proud hire of military, former military. I go into, when I used to go into coffee, bean, and tea, same thing. Buy a bag of, coffee for the troops. I fly out Southwest almost all the time, and at least once a month, and hey,
you're more popular than the homeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, and it's very hard to escape. But it's almost a given. I avoid watching a lot of sports on television, in part for these sorts of reasons. Where I don't like, as you put it so gracefully earlier, the flag humping. Sorry, I'm never gonna get that out of my head now. The visual is so great. The flag humping. These like dick waving. I'm sorry. These displays of patriotism that are so ostentatious, and now they seem unbelievable because they aren't actually quite unnatural. They aren't really they aren't organic, and that does amuse me. But that does give me a little bit of hope. The fact is that no, people instinctively maybe don't want this so much. I don't know. I hate reading comment threads, and all comment threads are horrible. Anti-war.com, there are no exceptions, but occasionally a couple people in here did say some things that were insightful. And a couple people touched on, the element of nationalism. It's really a way of, in a country that, what defines us anymore as a country? Some very, very vague sense of, the Constitution, whatever that means, and most people don't even, whatever, they don't care. And then, but these sort of weird nationalistic orgies of,
orgies.
I'm very out of touch with that way of thinking. So it's not something I really understand. I can really make myself understand very well. I try to put myself in the position of how other people feel about these things, but how does one work up an emotion for an abstract concept? That's that part of it that I don't understand the people who want and need these things as well as they should. I wish I did. I wish I'd have a better understanding of it. Because if I did, I'd have a better way of talking to them. Like, why do you think we should go into war into X country? Or, were you so excited when we captured so-and-so? Or why do you think voting for foreign aid for certain countries is important? Then I might be able to have an answer in terms of how to ban war. But unfortunately, I don't.
It's two mindsets that I don't understand. It's the militarism. I guess I understand that a little bit better because I sort of come from that. But the sports ball worship, that I really don't understand. And I come from that too. I mean, my whole family is obsessed with, sports games, sports ball. And I just don't get it. But I do understand that they're both very powerful forces. I understand that, people are brought to tears over their sports team, and their sports here, and they memorize statistics. And it's just mind-boggling, the devotion that people have. It's very powerful. So, I don't think it's like an easy task to get people to sign their life away to the government. But I totally understand why the military would use that powerful devotion to sports to encourage, to some way mingle the two and use that to get more cannon fodder, or at least keep their image in front of that audience. I should have maybe had somebody on that understood sports ball better.
Sports ball.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Charles is in Alabama. I went to the University of Florida, and that was one of the things that was a bit of a culture shock to me. Was the whole when you were talking about sports ball worship? I mean, I didn't have a flip. And I always found excuses to work at the law library, get overtime at my various jobs on football was there because it was so no one wanted to work because everyone wanted to be at the game. So it was actually, for me, it was highly profitable. And since everyone was at the game, it was also light workloads. I could get my own work done. I could have quiet time. I could dye my hair in the law library. No one would know. That sort of thing. Yeah, it was great. You could ask, but that was a cultural shift that I didn't entirely understand. And in the Southeast, especially, Charles is mentioning a little bit of that, is that the whole college football system and that whole mental recruitment. People are in the Southeast. This is my experience. I'm not from the Southeast, so please do not throw things at me. But my experience when I lived in the Southeast, going to the University of Florida, was that people did, refer to things like saying, all my family served in the military, or my grandfather did, my father did, now I'm doing it. It's sort of, people were, there's a certain pride that certainly defined a family. They felt that same way about college football. Entire families would go. You'd see children dressed up in the teams, like little cheerleaders, little football players, usually in the usual gender roles that kids want to be in there. That kids are, that parents want for their children, I guess. That I didn't think so much. I didn't think very hard about it at the time because I was so busy trying to avoid it. But I probably should have gotten out there more often and really asked people about why they're not in a patronizing way, but just
try to figure it out.
Yeah. And entirely because it makes it better to talk to people about war, occupation, and torture when you have more common understanding.
Yeah, the whole idea of meeting people where they're at, talking to them where they're at. I've been trying my whole life to understand it, and I just don't have whatever gene makes you obsessed about sports. I like going to the gym. I like being athletic. I like playing games. I like participating. I find that enjoyable. But as far as watching and worshiping, not into it. I don't get it at all.
No, same thing. I mean, I enjoy playing recreational sports and I enjoy being athletic, but I don't. The whole commercial sports do not appeal to me. And then college.
Oh, come on and roast me. Michael has something to say.
Okay.
Yes, my husband. He has something critical to say about me.
Okay.
We all want to hear that.
So this is not in defense of the sports ball, because I don't understand sports ball either. But see, you're ruining the illusion, because you can see the edge of the backdrop.
Oh, it's not a backdrop.
They'll not know.
This is the wall that we bang our heads up against.
Yeah, exactly.
When we think about politics behind us. It's not a backdrop.
So she says she doesn't understand sports. This girl will watch Days of Our Lives like 20 hours a day.
That I get.
If she is allowed.
I understand Days of Our
These
Lives.
ridiculously poorly written, hackneyed, terribly acted, low budget. I can't understand it at all. It is her sports ball, right?
Yes.
So you do understand it. You just need to replace X in the equation with a different thing other than your crazy obsession.
Yes, okay. That's fair enough.
Days of Our Lives is still in the air?
Yes. They're just celebrating their 50th anniversary.
All right, so the few original daytime soap operas that's left, right?
Yeah.
They eliminated most of them.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We're just waiting for them all to die.
Yeah, it's going to be a sad day for me. I'm going to have to go into mourning for an indefinite amount of time. I will cry, just like I criticize the sports fans for crying over their team.
Can I talk about the military and sports?
My husband's insightful.
The idea, people are shocked, they're aghast that the military is paying the NFL and the other sports, it's not just the NFL, to run around like idiots on the field and wave flags and honor their heroes and all of this stuff. And this has been happening really for decades. This started a long, long time ago when I was a kid growing up, and you would see portrayals of the military. It was things like MASH, right? Where war was shown as horrible and the military was shown as this mindless, bureaucratic machine that just chewed people up and spit them out.
And you had Klinger, who was desperate to try to get out.
Exactly.
Anyway. But you still had heroes. The vast majority of the characters were what you would classify as war heroes.
I don't know about that. The shows that were made in the 70s and even into the early 80s people were really bitter and cynical about the military and the war because of the hangover from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
The Vietnam, the way that it hung over, they couldn't make a movie or a television show about Vietnam. It was too raw, it was too fresh. So they made it about the Korean War. Shows like one of my favorite 80s shows, I'll admit, was Simon and Simon. And I watched an old episode recently, And in that episode of Simon and Simon, there was this military contractor that was bribing congressmen to sell the military weapons, and all of it was made to, those were the bad guys. They were the bad guys. And somewhere in the 80s, the Pentagon realized that they had a PR problem. And so the Pentagon ramped up their PR efforts in a huge way. And now they've been at it for decades now. And all of this that you see that support our troops and these guys are heroes, it's a PR campaign. The Pentagon
Blatantly
pays Hollywood to show the military in a positive light, to make them the good guys. They literally, big budget blockbuster movies, they'll get $5 million to make sure that the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines look good in the movie. And it's just like the Office of National Drug Control Policy does the exact same thing. They pay Hollywood to make drug dealers the bad guys, right? Yeah, and this has been going on literally for decades.
You have to go, Dad, right now.
I see Parker. I better go.
Yeah, we have a toddler sneaking out of his room, not wanting to go to bed. But yes, yeah. So PR and sports, and actually in the chat room, if you'll notice, Angela, Derek has posted something about the psychology of sports fans. Some psychologists claim that fan psychology is rooted in primitive times when we lived in small tribes, and warriors fighting to protect our tribe were true genetic representatives of our people. In today's society, athletes play a similar role for a city, club, or school in the stylized war on a playing field, as the theory goes. The athletes' exploits help reconnect the fans with those intense emotions that tribal warfare did for their ancestors. And he's got a link to Sports Networker, The Psychology of Sports Fans, What Makes Them So Crazy. That's really interesting.
It is.
I think I've heard versions of that before. I'm going to read that article, though. I'm going to pull that up to read later. Maybe it'll have insight that I haven't heard before. But, yeah.
Good case. Yeah, I definitely want to read this later. It sounds like, thank you, Derek. Charles mentions the Ministry of Culture.
Oh, yeah. Was that like a Soviet Union thing?
It says, I thought it was Orwell. I thought it was from 1984.
Orwellian. Like 1984. Yeah.
But it just, my brain, it always goes to dark places anyway with those ideas. Yeah, I know. I liked a lot of what Mike said. I mean, that did give me a lot of insight in trying to understand some of these things. I mean, the drama of sports, I sort of get. I mean, I know when people watch pro wrestling, one of the things they like are the characters and the carryover, and it kind of combines a certain amount of athleticism with soap opera. And certainly there's a bit of that in following a sports team and knowing all the statistics. And fantasy football leagues or fantasy baseball leagues are very popular.
Angela, do you have any insight into any other recruiting techniques that you find objectionable?
Oh, well, I mean, Scott Horton and I have talked about this on the air on the old show back in the day. I mean, he called them liars, and military recruiters will say absolutely anything to your children. They're young adults. I shouldn't patronize them like that, but to the young people they're trying to recruit, will say just about anything. And it's a sleazy business. That whole business is a very, very dirty. So I don't approve.
I remember seeing videos going around YouTube several years ago of a recruiter telling a young kid that, oh yeah, if you like band, you're going to get to be a drummer in the Army band. And of course, he goes off to the front lines or whatever, basically, but they can lie to you, they can say anything and it doesn't matter because what's in the fine print is where you're going to live or die.
Yeah, no, it's appalling, and I'm not. I mean, you know, I don't have much. I don't approve of much of these things. But before it gets too late, because at some point here, I'm going to have to scoot back to what I'm doing and pass out soon. I got up at 4 this morning and starting to show in my demeanor. But
Oh my
you sent me
gosh.
this great article here about from David
about
Vine.
the sex on the military. Yeah, let's move on to that. I'm gonna post that into the chat room, and then you go ahead and give me your reaction to that.
Well, first of all, I just want to be clear. This is David Vine, is the author of this article, and I do enjoy quite a bit of his work on military bases. He knows quite a bit about, you know, the history of Diego Garcia and other bases, and his work has been run on antiwar.com and Tom Dispatch and so on. And he's been interviewed by Scott Horton before, so he's not a hack. But you know, like a lot of sensible leftists, when it comes to sex work, they throw a lot of things together because they have a conclusion already that they don't like sex work and they don't like pornography. And there's several things to parse out in this article because it actually is fairly complicated. It's a 4-page article. He talks about quite a few things that go on in these bases. He's primarily talking about bases in South Korea, but he kind of throws in several things all in one giant pile: the issue of pornography, the issue of women in the military rape, sex trafficking, and the sex industry. And
there's a lot of issues.
Right, and not all these things are, I mean, you have to parse them all out because it's not as if, I mean, to be really clear, you know, sex, I'm just want to make sure I feel understand this. I am 100% pro sex work, sex decriminalization. And decriminalization is almost always the answer in situations where you see certain kinds of dysfunctionality.
Yes,
in this
case,
am
too.
Right. I mean, it's much, you know, I mean, it's a much, you can have, you know, you won't have problems with trafficking, or you won't have as many problems with trafficking or rape and so on when you have, you know, you have decriminalization, because things are not necessarily out in the open where you're scrutinizing the sex worker's life, but where, you know, a woman can, you know, primarily when we're talking about here in this particular article, where you can go for help. You know, if a client or customer has, you know, behaved inappropriately or has done violence, you can protect yourself because you're not completely an outlaw. I mean, sex workers are always going to be, at least in this place of time, going to be outlaws to some degree, but you know, here you can keep, that would be less of a problem if they just removed restrictions, and then they'd just be metaphorical outlaws as opposed to literal ones. But the issue of trafficking, you know, there's a lot of debate among the people on the left and libertarians about how much sex trafficking there actually is. There is labor trafficking. It's usually for domestic labor. And then, you know, there's also the rape issue in this article. I mean, obviously, everyone should have the right to not have to consent to any kind of sexual activity. That's just a given. And one thing that would decriminalization also help is that, you know, you can't, you know, it makes it a lot harder to ignore people that aren't really, you know, outside the law. They also talk about military marriages and this idea of sham marriages. You know, I mean, the idea of, if we're going to have state marriage, the idea of judging people's motives for marriage seems ludicrous to me. I mean, if I want to marry someone because I like the shape of her nose, or because he makes great pancakes, or because it's a great opportunity for me to have better health insurance, or to buy a condo, that
whatever. Marriage is marriage.
Right.
It should be dispassionate, legal, whatever.
But yes, the state has no business making a judgment on whether or not it's a sham marriage. And I certainly,
who cares?
Yeah, right. I certainly don't fault any of these women who are trying to make a better life, nor the men who want some companionship. I don't think, I mean, and that's the other thing too, and I disagree with, I think kind of David Vine comes from the premise that, you know, entirely the, you know, procuring the services of a sex worker is entirely exploitative. There's all kinds of things going on. People enter sex work for different reasons, and the people involved who procure the services want all different kinds of things. I mean, yeah, certainly there are men that were there to degrade women. There's no doubt about that. I've seen that kinds of interaction before. But then again, you've got these young men away from home. They're very lonely. There isn't much to do but drink and go to these places where they can have some entertainment, have a drink, have a pretty woman listen to them, you know, talk to them, have some companionship. And I think that's a very normal thing. And to somehow to think that that's going to be outlawed. But, you know, one of the things at the very bottom of this goes right back to, you know, the whole issue of why we have antiwar.com. You know, empire breeds this kind of dysfunctionality. And for conservatives who say that military service is compatible with family values are just insane. I mean, you can't have that. And and I talk all the time about how in the military lifestyle, having men isolated on these bases, some ways of divorce, adultery, illegitimacy, certainly in the situation, obviously a lot of many conservatives be uncomfortable with the situation with the juicy girls that David Vine described in this article. And what he doesn't understand is that what conservatives don't understand is that this is sort of the normal thing that's going to pop up around military bases. And military bases take place on top of land that usually is already occupied by someone else. Just the U.S. comes in there and plops a base down. It's not as if this land doesn't belong to South Korea, well, it certainly does. And it treats the Koreans as if they're the outsiders, as opposed to the fact that the U.S. soldiers are the occupiers. And you're going to have these bizarre power dynamics and this insanity. And Derek, and the strip clubs are a normal thing. Strip clubs are kind of normal. I mean, I left New York to go to school in the Southeast, and I lived in Texas for quite some time. And strip clubs are fairly normal adult entertainment.
I get to go to one tomorrow. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy going to strip clubs. I don't think there's anything inherently misogynist or exploitative in them. I mean, everyone involved is usually a consenting adult.
As long as everyone is there for, like the right reasons, being, consensual. I think the real problem here is not the sex work, but the poverty. The poverty is what eliminates other opportunities. And certainly no one should be involved in sex work who doesn't want to be there. Obviously, a lot of these juicy girls thought they were going to go somewhere and be a singer, you know? I mean, that's just as duplicitous as the military recruiters. They recruit boys to be drummers in the band,
Yes.
It's all exploitative. It's based on lies. And the real crime is the lack of opportunities to do something else if they want to.
Yeah, and why? I mean, and why the hell do we have a base in South Korea anyway? I mean, we should have ended the Korean, what was it, police action by now. The Korean War should have been, I guess, never officially declared over, but this is just a holdover from another era's, militarism and occupation. I was looking at what Derek said. I mean, strip clubs and fake marriages, lonely individuals. Yeah, these guys are a million miles away from home, a faraway place. What the hell else is there for them to do?
And also, I wanted to address something else that Derek said a little while back. He said, why don't they just give them a pill to destroy their libido, so that they'll, I don't know, placate them. But that's exactly what they don't want. They, soldiers fight and kill, in a rage, testosterone rage, that's what makes them angry and want them to, be good fighters. So you wouldn't want that. You want to encourage that. And that's demonstrated by all the encouragement, the backdoor encouragement of this, testosterone outlet, which is, the sex workers on and around the base. So, that would be counterproductive to, you want your soldiers to be angry and full of testosterone for sure.
Yeah, I like what Charles wrote in the chat room. Military service cannot equal family values. I think that should almost be a bumper sticker that maybe Scott Horton can do for Liberty stickers.
Boy,
yeah,
you get your car keyed for that one.
Yeah, but I mean that's the reality, and the statistics are all there. I mean, this isn't just my weird my usual Angela Hates America night. You can't have sensible, if you want conservative family values, you cannot have the military lifestyle. It's really something that's destroying it. If we both South Korea, yes, of course, the Korea would be better off if Charles is right. If the U.S. withdraws troops and closes its military bases, and this is just not a normal situation, and it creates the dysfunctionality. And when you remove the source of the dysfunctionality, it's not like you'll have a utopia, but you certainly won't have this situation. So I do think it's a really interesting and important article. And if I don't entirely, I mean, David Vine is coming at it as sort of that, the sex work's inherently demeaning and so on. And I think we should be a little more sophisticated about, the idea of women and sexuality and how in the transactional nature of sex anyway at this point in history.
Yeah.
We should be much more comfortable with it. So,
yeah.
So if I can, I know you want me to keep it kind of a wrap it
Yeah,
up?
we're almost out of time here. I usually like to keep it to half an hour, but definitely under 45. So yeah, what else you got?
I just wanted to ask people. I'm not people who know me. I know I'm not someone who's much into political action. That's just not my style, and it's not really my philosophy and my heart are. But I strongly suggest you go to antiwar.com and you'll see the call to action to please. I know I asked you to do this 2 years ago. A whole bunch of us did. Call your senators, call your congressmen about Syria. Say no again. If enough people stand up, I mean, obviously we can't stop them from all the backdoor maneuvers, but we at least want to be on record as saying, no, we didn't want this. It's not going to be a good thing. It's not a good thing. If all of you have been following what's going on with Russia and ISIS, we have a whole new set of problems. Please do not exacerbate it by formally going in. So I'm asking people to go to antiwar.com to go look at that. Justin did a great column up on about it.
Can you give us a quick update about what's impending? What are we facing? Like, I know we've been fighting this battle to like not bomb Syria forever, but like what's the latest?
What's the latest? Oh God, there's the whole thing with the plane crash, which the new information on the plane crash keeps coming in every couple of hours. So please, if you're following that, go to antiwar.com.
Was it a Russian jet?
It was, yeah. This was the whole. Was it an ISIS bomb? And
on the plane, I read a headline.
I mean, we all know how blowback works. We all know how war works at this point. I don't think any of us are deluding ourselves into what's going on. I mean, this is horrible and it was inevitable. So, please check on Jason Ditz's at news.antiwar.com for the latest on the plane crash. For Syria, I just put a link in the chat room. Call your congressman, tell them no. And also, I mean, lots of things are going on. You've got to make sure that there's going to be no, they're not going to expand what's going on, the horrors of Yemen. Obama 2 weeks ago slipped troops into Cameroon. Nobody noticed. Oh God, 9,000 troops in the UK. Are we trying to recolonize them? I'm sorry, I got distracted by the comment thread, which was great. Someone said, "Why do we have 9,000 troops in the UK? Are we trying to recolonize the motherland?" That's beautiful.
Do we really? I didn't even know that.
We have 9,000 everywhere.
Cameroon, what was that? Obama put troops in the Cameroon
2 weeks ago, yes, and nobody noticed it. Military advisors.
How many?
Troops, and no one said. I think about 50. I don't think that was the number.
Not a lot, but still a presence.
So
why?
It might have been as much as 300. I'm sorry. Let me look that.
Everything is our business, isn't it? We are like the world's busybody. Everything is our business.
Yeah, it was 300. I was right. Second time. 300 troops. Yes, they're going to stop the regional Muslim anti-colonial movement. And of course, Boko Haram and all those other situations that we have no control over in the first place. We're going to go and mess up even further. And also,
I think possibly the most powerful argument against this kind of thing, even though there's boogeymen all over the world, and even though Kim Jong-un is not a good guy, fine. But when we go over there and put our presence there, we create a force that he can unite his people against. It's not me doing this. The same with Cuba. It's not me doing this. It's the U.S. I'm trying to fight this big bad boogeyman for you. The U.S. is the real enemy. So we strengthen their position with their people, the people that should be overthrowing these awful, horrible people. And they're able to blame all of their problems that they created on us. And it's credible because the people don't know. They don't have a free press. They don't get information. That's the most powerful thing, is if we just stayed out of it, the people would not have us to blame for their problems, and they would rise up and overthrow these leaders, probably, eventually.
Yeah, and even if they did,
at least,
it's none of our business ultimately.
It's none of our business.
People, and we stay away. You can't. God knows you can't tell people what's good for them anyway. And also, too, I think even people as hardened as we are, and cynical as we are, would probably feel a little bit differently, a little bit slightly more generous to the war criminal Obama if, let's say, hypothetically, the Chinese came and occupied California or Texas. I think that's
can you imagine? Can you imagine? We'd love him. We would love Obama. We'd all unite behind him if we were invaded by China. It happened for Bush. happened for Bush. Everybody loved Bush for like
True.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
5 seconds, and now we hate him. But I mean, that's what happened after 9/11. They attacked us, and we united. So I mean, that's what we're doing for all of these evil people all over the world. We attack them. They get united people behind them, and it strengthens their position. It's horrible. And plus, it's none of our business. We're not helping. We cannot help. Yes, we do have some kind of a moral responsibility to these situations that we've created all over the world, but I don't know what we could possibly do to help at this point. The best we can do is get out of the way and let people try to move on. You know, there's nothing we can do to help. We can't fix it. The more we try to fix it, the worse it gets.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. And Derek made some great points in the chat room about
Derek is great. I love Derek guy.
Secret wars in Africa. One of the things that Barack Obama has been able to do, and very slyly, and this is where identity politics and race tend to backfire and it backfire and end up becoming in service of power, because people felt comfortable saying, yes, we're ready for a black president. No one really questioned Barack Obama's motives in terms of what he's been doing with AFRICOM and the occupation of Africa. I mean, little by little, country by country, the U.S. military has been making headway, and no one notices or cares. This gets reported, page A16 on the New York Times. They could see it on the front page of antiwar.com, though, because that's where we put, we make sure that you saw that New York Times article. So that's maybe my little plug there for antiwar.com, is that, if you've been following everybody, please, if you don't, just skim over the headline, just so you know what's going on. This stuff doesn't escape you before, so you're aware of the small problems before it becomes a big problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got to go. We got to wrap it up right now. But I'm going to tell everybody, give money to antiwar.com. Angela Keaton is the development director. So you gotta give money to antiwar.com to keep them going, because they do a tremendously good service as far as the free press and information and informing everyone about what's really going on from a liberty perspective. So huge plug for antiwar.com. And we're going to leave it there. And I loved having you on my show. It felt like 5 minutes. It was 5 minutes. And here it is like 45. So watch more shows on Liberty.me. I'm supposed to plug a couple of shows, and I love them all. I can't pick two. So watch them all. There's always something great happening at Liberty.me as far as live shows go, and everybody loves to participate with the chat room and interact. So thank you very much, Angela Keaton. I'm going to say good night.
Good night.
Good night.